Hey everybody, what's going on? So today I want to take a look at the highest scoring teams in the NHL and just see, which teams are at the top of the list, which teams score a ton of goals. All of these teams score over 3 goals per game. And just want to see, what teams got there and how many of these teams are playoff teams and how many of these teams are not. So before we start, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please hit that like button and give this video a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, to please subscribe, follow along for all my hockey content. Both of those things are greatly, greatly appreciated and really do help out the channel a lot. So for this, the metric I am using for these top 10 are goals for per game. I'm not using total goals because teams have played different numbers of games. We're not at the end of the season yet. So I want to even it out, do it more fairly. So it's goals for per game. So number one, the highest scoring team in the league, the Florida Panthers, are scoring 3.67 goals per game, which is very, very high. Anything over 3.5 goals a game is a very large number for an NHL team. And Florida this year has absolutely lit it up offensively. They've got a lot of big-time scorers on that team, a lot of big point producers. And the offense has not been an issue for Florida at all. The issue for Florida has been keeping the puck out of their own net. And so far, Florida's been able to counteract their defensive woes with such a high rate of goal scoring. And they are in a playoff spot at this point, but that's a risky road to walk down, especially heading towards playoff time. And if I'm a Florida Panthers fan, I absolutely want this team to start playing better defensively and cut down on the goals against. Because, come playoff time, usually these run-and-gun, high-scoring teams, if they can't play defense too, get knocked out early. And it's the better defensive teams that end up going deep into the playoffs. So Florida, right now, leading the league scoring-wise, a ton of goals this year. Again, highest goal rate 4 in the league with 3.67, but, not nearly as good defensively, and that might come back to bite them. Second is the Colorado Avalanche, 3.65 goals per game. They've been outstanding offensively this year. Obviously, Colorado is one of the top teams in the league. They're currently second in the Central Division behind only the St. Louis Blues, who, again, one of the best teams in the league. But, we know the Avalanche have scoring. Their top line of McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen is absolutely insane. They've got some good secondary scorers now. Andre Burakovsky's had a nice year. Nazem Kadri's gone to Colorado this season. JT Compher, I could just keep going on. They've got good offense from the back end as well with guys like Cale Makar. So Colorado, definitely not surprised that they're on this list, or even that they're top 5 on this list, because we knew Colorado was going to score a lot of goals heading into this game, or into this season. Number 3 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Toronto is scoring 3.6 goals per game, which is a lot. And again, this is not surprising. This is how this team was built. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, the list goes on with all the offensive powerhouse guys that they have, guys who score a ton of goals and rack up a ton of points. Similar to Florida, Toronto, it's been the defense that has let them down. Toronto is currently outside of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So that is not where the Maple Leafs thought they would be at this point in the season, or where they want to be at this point in the season. Similar, it's really, I think it's coming down to them in Florida for that 3rd spot in the Atlantic Division as far as who's going to get in the playoffs and who's not. And both of these teams are very similarly built teams. They score a ton of goals. They give up a ton of goals. Number 4 is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay has come on really, really strong after a slow first couple months of the season. The last 6 weeks or so, they've really gone back to looking like the Tampa Bay Lightning of last year. They score 3.57 goals per game. They've climbed all the way to 2nd in the Atlantic Division. And Tampa, again, another team with a huge, you look at that roster, you look at that lineup, and you see the offense that they have and the number of high-profile scorers. This is a team that, again, very much expected that they would put up goal numbers like this. Right behind Tampa Bay at number 5, the Washington Capitals at 3.56 goals per game. Washington's the best team in the league this year. They're in first place, leading the Metro Division, leading the entire NHL. Just an outstanding season so far for Washington. Again, another team not very, very much expected for them to be up here as far as goal scoring goes. Just you look at the lineup, obviously Ovechkin, Oshie, Backstrom, Kuznetsov. Tom Wilson now is actually a pretty darn good goal scorer as a top 6 forward. Wilson's really grown his game a lot offensively. John Carlson having a Norris-level season on the back end. Washington's just got a ton of offense there, and they certainly look like a serious Stanley Cup, not only contender, maybe even favorite this year. Number 6, we've got a little bit of a drop-off here between number 5 and number 6. Number 6 is the Boston Bruins at 3.31 goals per game. And honestly, I'm a little surprised that Boston is this high on the list offensively, just because we know their top line is absolutely outstanding. Bergeron, Marchand, Pastrnak light it up at night in and night out. But secondary scoring's been an issue for the Bruins really over the past number of years. This is nothing new. We're constantly talking about, they need to find a second-line winger. They've still never filled that position. They need to, they need to find better secondary scoring. But honestly, while it is an issue and it seems like an issue, it's not as big of an issue, I think, as a lot of people make it out to be, because they're still scoring at a very high rate, 3.31 goals per game, top 10 in the league. They've got a really, really good offense, even though myself included as a Bruins fan complain a lot about their offense. But no, Boston can certainly score goals as well. Number 7, right behind Boston, is the Pittsburgh Penguins, another great team in the Eastern Conference, 3.30 goals per game. They've been outstanding this year despite a massive number of injuries, often to very important players like Sidney Crosby, like Evgeny Malkin, like Justin Schultz, like Jake Gensel, like Nick Bjugstad. The list goes on and on, like Patrick Hornqvist. I mean, they've lost so many guys to injury this year for at least a little bit of time, some to for a significant amount of time, and this team just keeps on rolling forward, and Pittsburgh's absolutely one of the best teams in the league this season. Number 8, we have the New York Rangers at 3.29 goals per game. New York, not a playoff team. They score a lot, though, but again, similar to the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs, they give up a lot of goals as well, and I think that's the big thing that's kept the Rangers from being a playoff contending team, which they certainly are not this season. They score a lot. They've got a lot of offense there. Artemi Panarin, very, very good season in his first year with the Rangers. This is an up-and-coming team. This is a team that is still missing a few pieces, missing some depth. Not ready yet, but I do think will be ready in the near future, and I certainly think is a young, rebuilding team that is on the upswing without a doubt. Number 9, we have the Nashville Predators, and this one very, very much surprised me. I did not expect Nashville to be a top 10 offensive team. Nashville's whole identity over the past 5 years has been we're one of the top defensive teams in the league. They don't have a ton of high-profile scorers outside of Philip Forsberg and Victor Arvidsson, who, obviously they added Matt Duchene in the offseason, but he's not even having that great of a year. Nashville as a whole is having a horrible season, very, very disappointing, but they're scoring 3.27 goals per game, and this is just not the Nashville Predators that we've seen over the past few years. And maybe they should go back to being the Nashville Predators that we've seen over the last few years, because the defense this year has not been good. And that's kind of been their whole identity since, for the last number of years that they've been a contending team. This year, they're scoring a lot more, but they're giving up way too many goals, and that's absolutely killed them this season. And number 10 is the Vancouver Canucks, current leaders of the Pacific Division, scoring 3.24 goals per game. Vancouver, another one of those young, up-and-coming teams, a little bit more ready, I think, than the New York Rangers. Obviously, given where these teams are at in the standings, more ready than the New York Rangers. But the Canucks have taken that next step this year, relying on young players like Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, Brock Besser, guys like that. They've also gotten really good contributions from Bo Horvat and JT Miller, who they traded for in the offseason, have really come in and played big roles for them. So Vancouver's having a very nice season, and they're scoring a lot of goals and having a very good season offensively. So those are your 10 highest scoring teams in the NHL at this point in the season. Let's see, the Florida Panthers, the Colorado Avalanche, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, nope, the Nashville Predators, nope, the Vancouver Canucks. 7 out of those top 10 teams are in the playoffs right now. So, you know, it's not a direct correlation between high goal scoring and making the playoffs, but you certainly have a much better chance of making the playoffs if you can score goals than if you can't. And I think we see 7 out of 10 of these teams are in the playoffs. And the 3 teams that are not in the playoffs who are in the top 10 offensively are really struggling defensively. And I think tomorrow, when I do the defensive side of these videos, we're going to see that I would say probably all 3 of them are in the bottom 10 in the league defensively. So that is the issue for those 3 teams that are not playoff teams. But there's your top 10 highest scoring teams this season. So far, obviously, we've still got a couple months left, but I don't see anything drastically changing, I don't think, in the next couple of months. Maybe 1 or 2 teams swap or something, but I don't see things drastically changing. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.